Hi there, Ginger Roses. Welcome back to the YouTube. Hope you guys are good. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the average male age for everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. We're going to be looking from the age of 0 years old all the way up to 70 years old. Some of the things that happen, I actually forgot. Like, I'm kind of reliving my life through this video. I'm also excited to see what's yet to come. What am I going to learn? Make sure you keep watching until the end, guys, because the one at 69 years old really surprised me. I did not expect it. Okay, guys, before we start, I just want to point this out. Of all of you brilliant people who watch my videos, there's a massive 71.2% of you not subscribed. To this day, I don't understand why you don't just subscribe. It's just easy. It's free. So if you watch my videos and you enjoy them, then please do subscribe. It really helps me out. Thank you. I love you. Okay, so the very first thing that happens at 0 years old, you are born, of course. About 4 new babies are born every second. Wow. That's a lot of babies. 4 babies every second. So 1, 2. So that's like 10 babies right there. At 1 year old, you learn your first word. Names for parents are the most common first words. Steve. It's my mum's name. At 1.5 years old, you walk your first steps. Walking uses hundreds of muscles. Yeah, I suppose it does, doesn't it? Like all your muscles in your legs and probably some of your core muscles as well. And if you use your arms, using your arms as well. I don't know how old I was exactly when I learned to walk, probably around 1.5 years old. At 2 years old, you're able to run for the first time. Running requires having both feet off the ground. I never really thought of it like that. I suppose it does, doesn't it? Because you're like jumping in a way. Never really thought of it like that. At 4 years old, okay, it just skips 3 entirely. So you start school. Learning to read rewires brain networks for vision and sound. Interesting. I don't really know what it means by that, but I don't know. Maybe I need to go back to that one. At 5 years old, you are able to count to 10. Kids can perceive 4 different things without counting them. Okay, so it's like if you roll 4 on a dice, you immediately know that's 4. Also, I feel like I could count to 10 before I was 5 years old. Surely, right? At 6 years old, you lose your first tooth. I remember this being the funnest thing ever when you're younger, because you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get my first money. Because you know that your parents tell you, if you put your tooth under your pillow, you're going to get some money. I just thought I was going to be rich. Humans shed 20 baby teeth for a permanent set of 32. Yeah, and then when you hit 25 like me, you start getting molars come through. I've got one out the back, so I don't need this many teeth. But your body's like, nope, you got more coming. I can't fit any more in my mouth. At 7 years old, you get your first adult tooth. There you go. A proper dental care routine is essential to protect these. There you go, kids. Brush your teeth. At 9 years old, it is your first time using a swear word. Children acquire taboo words early through social learning. Like, I'd love to know the first time I heard the F word, or the S word, or just any word. I'd love to know where I heard it from. It could have been any number of places. It could have been TV. It could have been your friend. It could have been your parents. Just literally anywhere. At 11.5 years old, you have your first crush. Yeah, I suppose that's the age where you sort of start becoming aware of your sexuality. Around 11.5 years old, I'd say I definitely was. Probably even before that, to be fair. Early infatuations light up the brain's reward circuits. There you go. At 11.6 years old, you get your first phone. In the US, 95% of teens have access to a smartphone. Yeah, okay, maybe that's how it is now. It definitely wasn't when I was younger. Purely because I wasn't actually that interested, but I don't think I got my first phone until I was maybe 12 or 13. So a little bit older than this, not much older. At 11.8 years old, puberty begins. Bear in mind, this is average. This is the average age. In boys, the first sign is testicular enlargement. Well, there you go. You just wake up one morning and you're like, ah! No, I don't think I started hitting puberty, or maybe I did. I didn't really notice my balls swelling up, but I don't think I started hitting puberty properly. I was like 13, 14, so I was a bit later. At 12 years old, it is your first time getting hard. This happens several times throughout the night. This definitely happened earlier than 12 for me, but it would just happen at really inconvenient times, like just really randomly. I'd be like, what the hell is going on? Why is my penis going hard? This has never happened before. Why is it getting bigger? It would be a really annoying times, and I also just remember being really confused. But I was also like, this is what it is. I've heard about this. At 12.2 years old, you get your first pimple. Acne affects the vast majority of people at this age. Yeah, there you go. It's all the puberty kicking in. And you still get it at the age of 25 years old. Like, to be fair, I feel like it would just happen at any age. Is there any age where you just don't get any more acne? Because I'm 25 years old and I still get spots. Sometimes. They're not that bad, but just like on my back, sometimes on my face. There. Sometimes I'll get one there, and it's really painful. Don't forget to keep watching till the end, guys, because the ones at the end actually surprise me. At 12.3 years old, testosterone levels increase. Rising testosterone drives voice change and muscle growth. There you go, the guys start again. Wham! Gah! At 12.4 years old, your privates grow rapidly. This accelerates and doesn't slow until you're an adult. Well, hopefully this is still to come for me. At 12 and a half years old, your hair starts growing downstairs. No, again, this didn't happen until later for me. This is probably like 14. I didn't get any pubes or show any signs of pubes anywhere on my body until I was about 14. Like I'm talking armpits. Facial hair didn't even come until 15, 16. I was a late bloomer. All body hair will become darker and more coarse. That's a weird picture. Has that guy got a towel around him, or are they meant to be pubes? I'm not really sure. At 12.7 years old, you start smelling bad. Skin bacteria break sweat down into its distinct smell. No, I probably did start smelling bad, but I do remember that around that age, the boys' changing rooms would start to smell bad. Like, you would notice it. Primary school wouldn't be an issue. Secondary school, yeah, the boys' changing rooms stank. At 12.8 years old, it's your first self-pleasure. 80 to 90% of males do this by late adolescence. Well, there you go. I feel like this varies highly. Like, I don't know, when was the first time? To be fair, I probably was around this age. I think I was about 13. So yeah, this is probably accurate. Why has that guy got a red hand? What has he been doing? I don't think I've ever had a wank and my hand's been red afterwards. He might want to see a doctor. But yeah, I think I was about this age. At 13 and a half years old, your voice starts breaking. Oh my God, yes, I remember these embarrassing times. Vocal folds roughly double in length during puberty. That's why your voice sounds like this sometimes. It'd be so embarrassing, wouldn't it, if the teacher called you up in front of the class to read something out and you do a voice break and it's just like, At 13.6 years old, your voice deepens. Adult male speaking pitch is an octave lower than a child. A whole octave. Dun-dun. Yeah, I do remember roughly when that first started happening to me because I remember speaking to my dad's friend on the phone. He lived quite far away. And I started speaking to him and he didn't believe that he was talking to me. He thought he was talking to my dad because I sound quite similar to my dad. So my voice had dropped and he just didn't believe it was me. I don't know what to tell you, Lester. It's me! At 13.8 years old, you get more energy. Interesting, I don't remember this happening. If anything, it was probably the other way around. I was going through puberty at this time, so I was just like, oh, I can't be arsed. I got hair coming out of every orifice. I don't want to do anything. At 13.9 years old, your peak growth spurt starts. Boys add roughly 9 to 10 centimeters of height in a single year. Yeah, this is actually spot on for me. I hit puberty around this time, and also I was growing very quickly around this time. I hit my biggest growth spurt about 14. So that is accurate. At 14 years old, you get your first noticeable facial hair. It'll often start at the corners of the upper lip and then it spreads. Yeah, that is true. It did. It started up here and then just slowly became a beard. No, I would never want to grow a beard. I just feel like I would be itching it too much. At 14.1 years old, your muscle mass increases. Lean mass can rise by 20% across puberty. Yeah, I suppose I did start putting on muscle around that age. I reckon that's accurate. I became Wham! Gah! At 14.3 years old, your leg hair grows. Body hair grows at roughly 0.3 millimeters every day. Yeah, I mean, it would, but mine was so thin and so, like, see-through. You didn't even know I had it. It was so fine that you wouldn't even know I had leg hair. At 14 and a half years old, you would have major mood swings. Oh yeah, I do remember this. Reward circuits mature earlier than your self-control. Interesting. Yeah, I do remember having mood swings about that age, just getting like really angry for no reason. But then it's just your age, isn't it? It's just puberty. At 15 years old, you have your first kiss on average. I definitely didn't. I didn't have my first kiss till I was 19. So there you go. But that's an average. I've probably brought the average up by a couple years. Over 60% report a first kiss before finishing high school. I just wasn't interested. I was just too busy wanking and playing Xbox. At 15.2 years old, your self-consciousness increases massively. The most common insecurities are height, weight, and acne. Yeah, that is true. I would say that is like the prime age where people are most insecure. What year is that? That's like year 10, isn't it? Year 9, year 10? And then you get older and you realize none of it matters. At 15.6 years old, your jawline gets more defined. I don't know what I'm doing. I probably look like a slug. Mandibular growth plus facial fat redistribution. Well, there you go. At 15.9 years old, your shoulders broaden. The clavicle is among the last bones to develop fully. Interesting. So the clavicle's this one up here, I think. I might be wrong, but it's one of the shoulders. You just get even more wham. You just start looking bigger. You get broad. You get larger. Probably stronger as well. At 16 years old, you get your first part-time job. I did do that. I was a waiter. Retail and food services dominate first jobs. Oh, well, there you go. I was a waiter. That is a food service. At 16.2 years old, you drink your first alcoholic drink. Food slows down alcohol absorption. Yeah, I think I did. I think I probably was. And I was in a hot tub with my friend and we had a beer. And I hated it. I just hated beer. But I do remember doing that. I think I was. I was either 16 or 17. At 16.7 years old, your voice crack stops. Does it? I feel like mine sometimes even happens now. Like I'll be filming one of these videos and it will happen randomly. No, it definitely doesn't happen anywhere near as much as it used to, but I feel like it does very occasionally. Once your vocal folds develop, the voice cracks should stop. At 17.2 years old, you finish growing taller. Growth plates fuse in the long bones, so gains stop. Interesting. I thought you didn't stop growing fully until you're about 21. That's what I heard, but maybe not. I definitely did most of my growing by that age, though, by 17, yeah. At 17.3 years old, your manhood finishes growing. Oh, great. Wouldn't it be great if your manhood never stopped growing? If it was like the ears, because the ears never stop growing. Typical length finishes at about 5 inches. Well, there you go. Okay, guys, I just want to quickly talk about the sponsor of today's video, Puberty. Puberty is a browser extension tool that automatically looks for the best coupons for you to use on a massive list of online retailers. Activate Puberty's cashback feature before completing a purchase, and they'll even return a portion of the commission to your account. You can get this cashback from over 76,000 online retailers, including Temu, Mackies.com, Walmart, Sephora, and many more. But it doesn't even stop there. Puberty displays the price information from other platforms and retailers while you're browsing to help you make the best decisions. It does this with over 200,000 websites. So like I'm looking at these headphones on Amazon. I go view more deals and it takes me down here. So I can get these headphones for £15.49 with a £16.50 cashback. I also love that I can see the price history of these products. So like these headphones that are £147 now were only £80 back in August. Puberty works on Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari, you name it, and is trusted by over 9 million users globally. So join millions of smart shoppers, guys, and install Puberty today. Okay, let's get back to the video. At 17.5 years old, you lose your virginity. Average. There you go. I spoke about this in previous videos, but no, so that's average. I didn't lose mine until I was 21. So there you go, guys. Contraception use now exceeds 80%. At 17.9 years old, you have your first vacation without family. You know what? I actually did. Yeah, as soon as I left school, I went on holiday with some friends. Novelty and challenge boost memory formation. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. At 18 years old, you finish school. Average. How is that average? Oh, I suppose, yeah, because some people can leave at 16. Schooling spans roughly a dozen grades. 18.5 years old is the average age to pass your driving test. I actually think that is spot on for me. I was about 18.5. I was the last one out of my friends to pass, but I was also the last to start learning. But I did pass first time, so I will take that. First time practical pass rates hover around 50%. Nice. I did it with a 50-50 chance. 19 years old is the first time falling in love. Early stage romantic love activates reward circuits. That's definitely happened later for me. At 19.5 years old is your peak testosterone. So basically you just start going, just angry all the time. Levels are highest in the morning, often 20 to 30%. At 20 years old, you buy your first car. No, I bought my first car when I was 18, when I passed. Actually, it might have even been 17, and I bought it for £450. At 21 years old, your acne goes away. 1 in 5 men continue to have acne as adults. Brilliant. Fantastic. That's good, isn't it? At 23 years old, you start your first full-time job. I would have thought, why would you not have started your first full-time job before that, once you've left school? I suppose it's because a lot of people go to university, so they get their degree, then they start their first full-time job. But for me, as soon as I finished school, I went full-time as a waiter, which I hated. Nothing against the job, like as being a waiter. It was just the restaurant I worked in wasn't great. At 24 years old, you have your peak eyesight. Oh, I can see so much. So does that mean it's pretty much downhill from here for me with my eyes? I mean, I'm 25 years old now. Talking of 25 years old, your brain is fully developed. Oh, yes. By this age, your prefrontal cortex is fully developed. Yes, I'm a genius. Hopefully this also doesn't mean it's downhill from here for me as well. At 25.5 years old, you have the largest social circle, or the most amount of friends. People have 150 casual ties with 5 very close friends. Yeah, I'd say that's true. Again, does that mean as I get older, I'm just going to lose more of these friends? It's not looking good so far, is it? Since we've got to my age. At 25.7 years old, you get your first promotion. After a first promotion, 29% leave within a month. Interesting. I wonder why they would do that. Why would they leave after a month of getting their promotion when they're being paid more? There must be a reason for that. Well, I'm self-employed, so no one can promote me apart from myself. So I'm going to hereby give myself a promotion to CEO of JJ Everett Rose Industries. At 26 years old, you reach your peak athletic performance. Anaerobic and endurance peak at different times. Okay, good. That's still to come for me. That's good to know. At 26.1 years old, you are able to grow a full beard. Beard growth hinges on sensitivity to DHT. So in a year's time, guys, I'm going to have a full ginger beard. Imagine that. At 26.3 years old, you have your peak energy. Okay, that's good. Lung capacity can improve 20% with consistent training. So now is the time for me to put my work in the gym, and I'd be the best I've ever been. At 26.4 years old, you get your peak intelligence. Processing speed peaks here, but vocabulary peaks at 50. Oh, interesting. So as you get older, your vocabulary improves. You'll still learn more words and be able to use them in sentences. That's good, because I feel like that could be improved for me. At 26.7 years old, your peak sprint speed increases. The fastest sprint speed was Usain Bolt's 27.78 miles per hour. That's crazy, isn't it? Like, next time I'm in a car, I'm going to drive that speed and just imagine running that speed. Like, it's just insane. At 26.8 years old, you reach your peak fertility. As you get older, the chance of birth defects increases. Okay, so basically, if you're trying for a child, around 27 years old is a good time. At 26.8 years old, basically, if you ejaculate, you just impregnate every woman within a mile radius. You're just so fertile. At 27 years old, you move out from your parents. Housing costs and wages drive leaving home patterns. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I probably will be around this age when that happens. I'd say that's accurate. At 27.5 years old, peak bone density. Building high peak bone mass helps cut fracture risk. Oh, really? I actually thought it was 30 years old or around 30 years old that you get your peak bone density. But 27.5 years old, it's okay. It's still to come for me. At 28 years old, you meet your long-term partner. Online introductions are the most common way to meet. Well, there you go. Well, I've got to go for her now, so I'm actually really hoping she's my long-term partner, but I guess we'll find out. No, she is. Yeah. At 29 years old, you're likely to get engaged. The average engagement lasts about 15 months. Does that mean before they break up or before they actually get married? Not really sure. At 30 years old, you reach your peak muscle mass. Ah! Resistance training plus adequate protein create gains. Hell yeah. All the gains. At 30.2 years old is the average age to get married. Money stress is a leading predictor of conflict here. And I don't blame people, because getting married is flipping expensive. And to be fair, I would much rather save for a house over getting married. I think it just makes more sense. At 31 years old, your first noticeable wrinkles appear. Collagen production declines about 1% per year. Oh no, well that's all to come for me. My wrinkles will start appearing. At 31.5 years old, you become a father to your first child. Wow. New fathers show a huge testosterone dip of 26%. Interesting. I wonder why. Just because they become a father, their testosterone levels drop. I don't know if that's just because fathers are older in general, or if having a kid genuinely just brings down your testosterone levels. It's kind of interesting though. At 33 years old, you start to bald. Over half of men experience balding. Really? So the other half just don't? The other half just won't lose any hair? I feel like I've got quite good genetics with that, because my dad's not really balding and my grandparents I don't think did. I don't know, fingers crossed anyway. I might be completely bald next week in the next video. So at 33.5 years old, you have your second child. Typical sibling age gaps cluster around a couple of years. Yeah, there's 3 years between me and my sister. At 35.4 years old, you buy your first home. Home equity becomes the largest part of net worth. Well, there you go. Well, I've been lucky enough because of YouTube and you guys that I've been able to buy my home last year. So thank you, guys. 38 years old is the average age to switch your career direction. Transferable skills matter more than titles. Yeah, that is true. I love how they've shown a picture of someone gaming here. But I'm already doing that. So when I reach 38, I'm going to change to what? Change to a job in insurance or something? I'll just change jobs. At 39 years old, you get your first grey hair. Stress can speed up the loss of pigment in your hair. Sometimes it can happen earlier than that, though. I feel like again, this is very dependent. This is probably just an average age, but I feel like it can happen at any age. Like some of my friends, I've known to get them when they hit their late 20s. At 40 years old, you start getting shorter. God, you spend all your childhood getting taller, and you hit your 40s and you start going back. Height loss mostly comes from disc compression. That's why you're taller in the morning. So when you wake up in the morning, your spine decompresses and you're taller, but then it goes back down throughout the day. At 45 years old, you need reading glasses. Using brighter lights or large fonts can preserve sight. My mum, my dad, and my sister all wear glasses and I don't. So I feel like it's inevitable for me at some point. At 46 years old is the average age to get your first serious disease diagnosis. Oh, good. Hypertension is the most common first condition. Oh, okay, hypertension, so that is high blood pressure. At 47.2 years old, you have a midlife crisis. Oh, God. Well-being data often show a midlife dip in happiness. Oh, good. As this video goes on, it's getting more and more negative. Hopefully that changes. At 50 years old, you get your first prostate check. Early prostate cancers often have no symptoms. Brilliant. Brilliant. At 55 years old, your parents die? Oh, that's good, isn't it? This is getting dark now. The median funeral with a viewing and burial costs $8,300. Christ, I did not know that. Why are funerals so expensive? At 56 years old, your oldest child leaves home. Okay, that's a bit more of a nicer one. Finally, empty nest households tend to be happier. Interesting. I wonder why. Is that because the kids are making it horrible? At 58 years old, you write your will. Most adults don't have a will. I wonder why. They just don't bother. Just like, you know what? I don't care. They're like, I don't care what happens, who gets what when I die. Sort it out amongst yourselves. At 59 years old, you become a grandfather. Grandparents often provide regular childcare. Again, this is an average age, so yeah, it's not 59 years across the board. Like my mum's 61 and she's not a nan. At 60 years old, you buy your final home. I mean, this kind of depends on the person, but proper lighting and bars to grab hold of will help fools. Oh my God. 60 isn't that old, bloody hell. At 64 years old, you go into retirement. Retirees average about 7.6 hours of leisure every day. Oh, that sounds so good. When I retire, I'm just going to get really good at something. I probably would get into golf or something like that and just try and get really good at it. At 65 years old, you finish your bucket list. Seeing the Northern Lights is the most common item. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah, to be fair, I would like to see the Northern Lights, but it's not the top of my list, so I probably will wait until I'm 65 years old to do it. At 67 years old, you get to your peak net worth. Surely you would get to your peak net worth older than that, like just when you die. The average household net worth peaks at about $1.7 million. Really? So everyone technically, or most people on average, when they get to that age, become millionaires? I suppose it's not the same as being a millionaire. I didn't know that though. Okay guys, we have made it to the last two. At 69 years old, this is quite interesting, you reach your peak happiness. Many studies find a U-shaped curve in life satisfaction. That's kind of cool. I wonder why it is. What is it to do with? It's probably to do with retiring, isn't it? Like once you've retired, you can do what you want, so you're at your happiest. That would be amazing. There's no, you don't have as many stresses. That's great. I'm gonna retire, guys. I mean, I'm not ready. I don't have enough money to retire, but I'm just gonna do it. So I'm happy. Okay, guys, we made it to the last one. At 70.8 years old, of course, you reach death. The global average is higher for women at 76 years old. Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? Women live a whole 6 years older than men on average. Or 5 or 6 years older. Why? No, we all know why. Men are idiots. Right, well, that's a nice cheery end, isn't it? Isn't that nice? Isn't that a nice way to end the video? No, that was really interesting, though. It's kind of, it was cool to, like, relive my life up until my age now and also look at what's to come. And what's to come doesn't look amazing, I won't lie. No, to be fair, I am looking forward to having, like, kids one day and moving out of my home. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff I'm looking forward to. I can't wait. Okay, guys, that is going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed watching, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon. Really helps me out. Take it easy. I will see you in the next video. Bye.